Street in Needham. They're the most highly recommended place to sell your coins, jewelry, gold, silver, and historical items. Call 774-766-3050. That's my forecast. I'm Mark Rosenthal.
I was out working, a car out of the blue crossed the center line and crunched me. There was nothing I could do. Everybody thinks that they can do their own attorney, but you can't. There's too many legal hoops. There's too many options.
Insurance companies love taking advantage of people who try to handle their cases alone. Seriously injured? Call Konoski Bresney. We get your worth.
I'm very happy with the result. I don't think any other attorney could have done a better job.
Call Konoski Bresney at 888, the letter U, count and the number 2, or see me on the web at bresneylaw.com.
My name is Dale Pazinski. I volunteer with United Way to help the homeless in my community learn computer skills and build a basic resume. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
You're tuned in to Money Matters Boston, 1120 AM WBNW. This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275CM FM. Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
Our Senators Edward Markey and Elizabeth Warren and Representative James McGovern are standing up for radio listeners like us by supporting legislation to keep AM radio in cars. They know the value of local radio in times of emergency. Now it's time for Congress to finish the job and pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. Learn more at dependonam.com. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
As a busy mom, my to-do list is full.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
Visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. One of the biggest challenges in financial planning is seeing the full picture. When your investments are spread across multiple accounts, it can be difficult to know how much you actually have and whether your strategy is really working. You might be taking on more risk than you realize or missing opportunities to better align your portfolio. Bringing your accounts together can help create clarity so you can see your total assets, your true allocation, and make more informed decisions about your financial future. Our new guide is called Consolidating Investment Accounts. It walks you through how to get organized, simplify your strategy, and build a more complete financial plan. Call 800-393-4001 to get your free copy today. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide by visiting armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
For many hardworking families and retirees, an energy bill comes with an impossible choice. Paying the bills, putting food on your table, and keeping your family warm in winter and your home cool for the summer. But it shouldn't be that way. For more than 40 years, Citizens Energy has made one simple promise: to help households afford life's basic needs. Through Joe for Oil, we help neighbors through the coldest winter nights. Now, we're building on that same promise with Joe for Sun, a new way to save on electricity year-round. Our solar projects are already in communities across Massachusetts and New York, helping thousands of households save money. For many families, that means saving up to 50% on electricity. No installation, no equipment, and you keep your utility company. Like my dad's program before, we keep it simple, helping lower your utility bill through community solar at no cost to you. Call 1-855-JOE-FOR-SUN or visit citizensenergy.com to see if you qualify. You've trusted Citizens Energy to show up when it matters most. We're still here, ready to help.
Sponsored by Citizens Energy.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today, we're talking about the top estate planning mistakes to avoid. Todd, a lot of people create their estate plan, but there are some that don't actually transfer assets into it. Can you explain why this is such a big mistake?
Sure. I mean, I'm going to try to explain it both from a revocable and an irrevocable planning standpoint. With the revocable, if you don't put assets in there, you end up leaving them owned perhaps jointly if you're married, and designated beneficiaries and the like. But if everything goes to the spouse, when one dies, then you've completely avoided your estate plan. In other words, you've set your trust up, but you went around it by leaving everything to the spouse instead of going through it by funding the trust and cramming down the assets to shelter some from estate taxes on the first death, so there's less taxed on the second death. And ultimately, on the second death, if you don't plan, there could be a probate problem because everything would go to probate if it's in their own name. The other big reason is with an irrevocable trust, of course, not funding it also can result in estate tax problems by the same way it did with the revocable trust. But in addition to not funding them with the irrevocable, you don't even begin the 5-year waiting period to get the assets protected from the nursing home. So there's a much bigger problem not funding an irrevocable trust versus not funding a revocable trust. So make sure you fund your trust if you do your planning.
Well, luckily, Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide that details the estate planning blunders to avoid. You can request this brand new guide by simply calling 866-848-5699, 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
It's Chuck, it's Mike, it's Tucker with you here on the first Monday of May. It's not a special day, you know, it's not like tomorrow, which is, by the way, Cinco de Mayo. It's a date that we've had circled on the calendar for basically the last 2 months, where if you were to pull one of our shows from the first week of March, you heard me at some point saying, hey, if the Strait of Hormuz is still closed by the time you get to Cinco de Mayo, you've got some real problems that you can't escape from. And where it stands right now is that despite, and we'll talk about what this means and what it doesn't mean in a little bit, despite an announcement yesterday that the United States is going to try to guide ships through the Strait of Hormuz, the strait is effectively closed to any kind of traffic resembling normal operations. You're seeing a handful of ships a day that are crossing. Some are still being shot at, including a couple in the last day that were attacked by Iranian drones and other projectiles that have not yet been identified. And so the issue that we have here and why Cinco de Mayo matters is because there are two reasons. The first is that it inevitably takes the impact from just being, okay, things were, bad because of the Strait of Hormuz in Q2 and being able to put a bow on that and move on. It takes it from being that to now, okay, the timeline for this is clearly going to move into Q3 as well when things can still be worsening. But the more important one is one that we talked about last week, which is now that you are starting, Cinco de Mayo this week, that was the week where most of the people I talked to thought you would start to see draws in U.S. crude inventories because of ships finally arriving in the U.S. Because they can't source the oil or oil products that they need elsewhere. And sure enough, last week, we did indeed see a draw of crude oil from the United States. And specifically, I want to give some context to this just because I think it matters when we're trying to look at the numbers here. So we get data every week from the EIA, the Energy Information Administration. And what they do is they put out a report telling you how much crude and refined product moved around the United States, went in, went out, how much is still in storage, so on and so forth. Yep. And what we saw last week between the commercial stocks that were depleted and the Strategic Petroleum Reserve release, we saw around 13.3 million barrels flow out of U.S. crude stockpiles, which is the sixth largest flow on record. Now, a lot of the other ones you can look at and you're like, okay, these dates don't particularly mean anything. It didn't lead to anything the next week. But the point I'll make is that the Strait of Hormuz was not closed during any of those. And so there was not, a clear reason for it to continue. In this case, where we are heading, and again, we'll just have to see what the draws look like in the coming weeks, but you are going to get to operational minimums in the U.S. pipeline capacity, pipeline system and crude transportation system somewhere between July 4th and Columbus Day, most likely towards the end of July or early August. That's where we're going. And here's why this matters for all of us. When you get to those levels, effectively, you only have so much oil that you can move within the system then in order to maintain operation. Otherwise, it just breaks down. And so
explain breakdown. Yeah, I'm not sure I follow.
So let's say that if you're pumping anything, you need to have a minimum amount of the liquid in the system that you are pumping. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It loses efficiency. You can't, you need to have pressure in order to actually move things through the system. When you get below a certain capacity, that stops working. And the other piece that you run into is when it comes to storage. And again, this is just how oil tanks are built. I don't know why it's this way, but I'm sure there's a very reasonable... Actually, I do know why it's this way. The pipes that flow out of oil tanks aren't at the bottom of them. And the reason why is because you get all of this sediment and everything that collects in there. And so basically you have a minimum amount that can never be pumped from the tank because the outflowing pipes aren't at the bottom of the tanks. They're designed that way for a reason, but it still is just how it is. And so when you look at U.S. commercial crude inventories and see 460 million barrels of oil sitting there, you say, it's fine. There's plenty of oil in the system. Part of this is that the estimates now are anywhere from 100 to 150 million barrels is actually in the pipelines flowing at any given time. So you can't just use that because otherwise you don't have a pipeline system that works. There's another 200 million barrels or so that needs to be in the tanks in order to maintain proper, again, eventually, flow in and out. And also there's some that you just can't pump because it's below the line that is pumpable. I think that's a new word that we just made up. Pumpable.
Yep.
So where this goes is it's not like you have a 460 million barrel buffer here. The actual buffer that you have is somewhere in the ballpark of 70 to 90 million barrels. And commercial stocks drew by 6 million last week. You've got somewhere, again, depending on how fast the flow rate is, somewhere probably between 8 and 16 weeks before you get to operational minimums. And the reason why that matters is when you get there, it's not like oil just continues to stay at the same price, because ultimately, if you're a refinery saying, hey, I want to buy oil, and oil's sitting there at $100 a barrel and you can't find any, you just say, okay, I'm just going to keep bidding on $100 barrels.
So eventually it stops flowing outside of the United States. It'll stay here it's at a higher price.
Because what'll happen is, okay, the suppliers can't deliver that barrel at 100 because there's just not enough. And so in order for suppliers to not default on contracts, the price moves up. Yeah. It's not profiteering. It's not greed. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure they're happy to make the extra money. But the reason this happens is because if you have 2 million barrels of oil that are demanded and both companies are willing to pay 100 for it, well, then you got to be able to sell 200. You got to be able to sell 2 million barrels of oil in order to clear that market. If you've only got 1 million that you can deliver, you keep raising the price until it gets to, hey, there's only 1 million barrels of demand, and now we're matched. And so this is where we are going this summer. There is no changing course on this. It is set in stone right now as far as where we are going to get to at some point later this summer, that you are going to get pretty close to, if things stopped like right now, maybe you can avoid being at minimum operational capacity for very long, but you're basically going to hit there because you have this line of ships that is coming to the U.S. to fill up, and they've got nowhere else to go. They can't go anywhere else to get this oil. And if you said, oh, like let's ban exports, great. Now you are going to have refineries getting all backed up in the U.S. You're not going to have the product that you need domestically, and it's a whole different problem that is not solving the situation. So we're at the point now where this is destiny. There is nothing that can be done to change this. The only question is how long does it last? And that's dependent on when flow begins through Hormuz again.
So oil prices today, barely moving. On the Brent side, they're moving up about 2%. West Texas crude moving about 0.25%. But we're still sitting over $102 per barrel. When I look out, we've been talking about how oil's actually priced because we're looking at a May contract right here. Taking a look at a December contract for a barrel of oil, we're now sitting at $81.54. Earlier, just over the last few weeks, we were in the 70s. This has been steadily climbing up, obviously, the longer this conflict, and, regardless of whether it's terminated or not, regardless of all of that, really the conflict is whether or not traffic is flowing through the strait. This contract for December oil has continued to creep up and up and up.
And quite honestly, I'll make the point, the December oil contract doesn't matter. It's not predictive of where oil's going to be. Yep. It's just, hey, if you want to secure barrels right now for delivery, then this is what you can pay that balances the market.
Yep.
Ultimately, the number that matters is when you look at like Brent, it is what is the number for either prompt delivery of Brent, meaning within the next 3 weeks, or dated, meaning 3 to 6 weeks out. Like that there is a date, there's a date of delivery. That's where the term dated Brent comes from. And so what you see when you look at the numbers, prompt and dated are trading like $20 to $30 above the first futures contract.
So
right
if
now.
You're a refiner in India,
that's
you
what
want
you're paying.
Oil delivered, you're paying about $1.50.
That's what you're paying actually in order to get it right now. And so the problem that you have here, like again, the die is cast on this. There is a ceiling as to how high gas prices can go just based on supply and demand, but it's a lot higher than where we are today. And again, I know this might sound kind of crazy. It's not unreasonable to think that if the Strait of Hormuz is closed for the next month or two still, $7 or $8 a gallon gas in the United States is not out of the question.
What was our all-time high back during 07?
501.
501.
And
right?
that was in 22. That was in 22.
22. Yeah, you're right.
Diesel right now is knocking on the door of all-time highs. Diesel's 17 cents under. It might pass those all-time highs this week. We are still around 55 cents under on gasoline right now. But the question for this summer is basically, can you have like a very short-lived peak somewhere in the low fives? Or do you end up going higher and the limit there's probably in the $7 to $8 a gallon range? But that's where you could potentially get to if we're still sitting here on the 4th of July with the Strait of Hormuz closed. Which, again, I know sounds crazy, and I hope my dream in this is that like this all just somehow gets resolved in the next month, and we sit here and we laugh at me all summer. Like, oh, Chuck, that was so funny. Like, I hope that's where we go, but I'll be honest, I didn't think we would be here on Cinco de Mayo Eve, which is my favorite eve.
Cinco de Cuatro is what we call today.
Cinco de Cuatro. I enjoy that.
From Arrested Development. It's not
I knew I heard it somewhere, yeah. But, again, we're at the point now where, like, the die is cast. There is no escaping what's coming this summer. It's just a matter of how long does it last and how high is the peak. Let's take a quick break. When we return, we'll talk about the latest plan for the Strait of Hormuz next.
Remember, you can watch the show live every day on our YouTube page. We've got market updates and breaking business news all morning long, plus a full archive of all our show's content. It's all there with the click of a button at youtube.com/The Financial Exchange Show. Some of the biggest estate planning mistakes are the ones you don't even know you're making. At Cushing & Dolan, they've seen it all. Plans that aren't complete, that only rely on a will or lack of funding of a trust. These are the kind of mistakes that can lead to probate, unnecessary taxes, or even putting your assets at risk. As your life changes, so should your estate plan. Marriage, grandkids, new assets, and even changes in tax law can impact how your plan should be structured. That's why Cushing & Dolan created a brand new guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Potholes to Avoid. It walks you through the most common and costly mistakes and how to help protect your assets, your family, and your future. Call 866-848-5699 to get your free copy today. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. One of the biggest challenges in financial planning is seeing the full picture. When your investments are spread across multiple accounts, it can be difficult to know how much you actually have and whether your strategy is really working. You might be taking on more risk than you realize or missing opportunities to better align your portfolio. Bringing your accounts together can help create clarity so you can see your total assets, your true allocation, and make more informed decisions about your financial future. Our new guide is called Consolidating Investment Accounts. It walks you through how to get organized, simplify your strategy, and build a more complete financial plan. Call 800-393-4001 to get your free copy today. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide by visiting armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
I was 24 when I had a stroke. I was 35 when I suffered a heart attack.
I was 46.
I was 62.
It's a fact. Cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death in women.
But we can fight against our number one killer.
Talk to your doctor about your risk factors.
Know your family history.
Learn the warning signs and symptoms.
Together,
let's go red for women.
Visit goredforwomen.org to learn more.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Our Senators Edward Markey and Elizabeth Warren and Representative Stephen Lynch are standing up for radio listeners like us by supporting legislation to keep AM radio in cars. They know the value of local radio in times of emergency. Now it's time for Congress to finish the job and pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. Learn more at dependonam.com. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
When a heart stops, the clock starts. You are the first responder until help arrives. In that moment, 4 minutes equals brain damage. 6 minutes equals too late in an emergency. The first responder is you. We need you. Will you be ready? Learn CPR. Visit heart.org/nation. That's heart.org/nation.
From Fed decisions to market moves, watch the Financial Exchange live on X. This is the Financial Exchange.
All right, yesterday, I think it was somewhere around 5 p.m. or so, the president put out a post on Truth Social. I'll quote here, countries from all over the world have asked if the United States if we could help free their ships, which are locked in the Strait of Hormuz for the good of Iran, the Middle East, and the United States. We've told these countries that we will guide their ships safely out of these restricted waterways so they can freely and ably get on with their business. And the president dubbed it Project Freedom. So this piece in the Wall Street Journal came out last night, a bit after that, and I was reading through it, and I was like, okay, show me what's going on here. And I got to the paragraph immediately afterwards. The new mechanism is effectively a coordination cell to move traffic through the strait involving countries, insurance companies, and shipping organizations, according to 2 senior U.S. officials. It doesn't currently involve U.S. Navy warships escorting vehicles through the strait. So basically, it sounds like it was the U.S. trying to say, hey, this is the path that you can take, and we're not going to escort you through, but we can provide information and so on and so forth.
And to be clear, while there's a lot of fog going on in the first 5 hours of this morning on Eastern time, it appears that,
guys, I got to tell you, no one knows anything about what's happening right now. So
I think what we can say confidently, it doesn't appear that a bunch of ships are now moving through the Strait of Hormuz.
So here's
much I'm comfortable.
Here's the lay of the land this morning. And again, it's almost impossible to verify any of this because we don't have access to real-time data surrounding the movement and damage status of various ships throughout the Strait of Hormuz. So the United States Central Command is indicating that 2 U.S. destroyers have passed through going inbound in order to provide additional assistance to ships that are already in the Persian Gulf. CENTCOM also indicated that 2 U.S.-flagged commercial vessels have exited the strait at this point, but we don't have any tracking data on any of this. It's all happening without what's called the AIS systems turned on in these ships, so we don't know where they actually are.
Other pieces of information, some Iranian media outlet claimed to have struck U.S. Navy ships. The U.S. Central Command denied as much. And then
there's a South Korean ship that has been struck. There's a UAE one that's been struck.
That again, we think
the UAE's confirmed it. The
UAE's now confirmed
UAE
it? Okay.
confirmed that.
Okay.
And South Korea confirmed that their ship got hit.
Yeah.
The other thing that happened this morning, and this is wild, in 43 different ways. So Iran also published pictures of their new map for their zone of control through the Strait of Hormuz. And the part that's really interesting and potentially escalatory is on the eastern side, so outside of the strait. There's a port in the UAE, Fujairah, which is where there's a 1.5 million barrel a day pipeline that's been running there that has been allowing exports from the UAE from a port outside the Strait of Hormuz. The new Iranian maps that they published today are claiming that area as Iranian water. And so basically any ship that's loading there may in theory be targeted. So where we're heading right now is a pretty dangerous spot this week because the United States, and what's probably a pretty strong tactical move, is saying, look, we're going to, basically dare you to start shooting at us if we're going through the strait. Iran may or may not have if these ships actually pass through. We really don't know what's happened yet. Iran, likewise, is saying, hey, we're now claiming a larger area as, something under our control, and we might start shooting at stuff in that larger area. And so it does feel like things are kind of coming to a head this week because you can only escalate rhetorically for so long before you have to actually do something in the physical world.
It's been fairly quiet for now,
about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And so this is a dangerous week here, and we're going to have to see how this plays out. I have no idea what's going to happen. Maybe the U.S. is successful in being able to start moving things because Iran doesn't want to actually start shooting at U.S. ships. Maybe that's not the case. I don't know.
I mean, it's pretty clear that it wasn't the case with the UAE ship.
But this is a pretty big week here, and I think that it has the potential to evolve in a number of ways that are unpredictable as we look at what each side is pushing into the middle of the table for a poker analogy. So, again, we'll see where this goes here, but the fog of war is thick right now, It's very hard to know what's actually going on, but we'll have to just see how things evolve over the rest of the week because it's messy at the moment. Quick break and Wall Street Watch is next.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Some of the biggest estate planning mistakes are the ones you don't even know you're making. At Cushing & Dolan, they've seen it all. Plans that aren't complete, that only rely on a will or lack of funding of a trust. These are the kind of mistakes that can lead to probate, unnecessary taxes, or even putting your assets at risk. As your life changes, so should your estate plan. Marriage, grandkids, new assets, and even changes in tax law can impact how your plan should be structured. That's why Cushing & Dolan created a brand new guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Potholes to Avoid. It walks you through the most common and costly mistakes and how to help protect your assets, your family, and your future. Call 866-848-5699 to get your free copy today. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
In a heartbeat, you could be the difference.
Mark collapsed from cardiac arrest.
9 out of 10 people who suffer cardiac arrest outside the hospital don't survive.
It took 30 minutes of chest compressions to finally feel a pulse.
Most of the time, it's because no one nearby performs CPR. But together, we can change that. Extraordinary things happen when people take action. A small step, a simple skill, a life-saving moment. HeartWalk brings communities together to create health and hope for every heartbeat. Every walker who joins HeartWalk, every dollar donated, means more people trained in CPR, more research, and more life-saving moments for everyone. Take the first step and register for your local HeartWalk. Extraordinary starts with you. Join HeartWalk today. Find your local HeartWalk at heartwalk.org.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a guide available this month titled Consolidating Investment Accounts. Mike, how does someone end up with just this sprawl of different accounts over time?
We've all seen it before with family members or even ourselves, but according to the BLS these days, the average person stays at a job fewer than 4 years. And so imagine you're job hopping from place to place. You might have a retirement plan through there. And all of a sudden, a decade into your career, you could have 2 or 3 different retirement plans just from, changing jobs and taking that next promotion at a new place.
It doesn't even just happen with different retirement or investment accounts. It can happen with bank accounts or insurance policies. You can end up with stuff scattered everywhere.
Well, we all know that, that aunt or that family member that is always scouring for the best CD rate or interest rate on the savings account, or, has some money with this broker and this financial services company. And all of a sudden, you can be looking at a situation where over the years, you have a dozen different places where you keep assets, and that becomes more and more complicated to ensure that your spouse is on there, that you have beneficiaries aligned properly, and that you can actually monitor these things.
Folks, our guide is titled Consolidating Investment Accounts, and there are two ways that you can request it. The first is by calling 800-393-4001. The second is by going to armstrongadvisory.com. That phone number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request it online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Time now for Wall Street Watch, tracking the stocks, the data, and the headlines driving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Markets are beginning the week in mixed territory, with oil prices jumping higher over ongoing uncertainty with the Strait of Hormuz. Traders are also waiting for the April jobs report on Friday morning. Right now, the Dow is down 0.1%, S&P 500 is up 0.1%, NASDAQ up nearly 0.2% or 42 points. Russell 2000 is up about 1/3%, 10-year Treasury yield up 3 basis points at 4.412%, and oil is edging higher, trading at $102 a barrel. Aside from Iran, the big development over the weekend came from GameStop, after CEO Ryan Cohen made an unsolicited offer to buy eBay for about $56 billion. In an interview with the Wall Street Journal, Cohen said that putting his video game retailer and eBay under one roof could create opportunities to cut costs and improve earnings. eBay stock is up 4%, while GameStop shares are down by 4%. Meanwhile, shares in Norwegian Cruise Line dropping 8%. After the company cut its outlook, citing higher fuel prices, and also said consumers are rethinking travel plans. Elsewhere, Tyson Foods posted better than expected quarterly results, but said soaring cattle prices weighed on its results. That stock is up over 1%, and after today's closing bell, we'll see earnings from Paramount, Skydance, and Palantir. I'm Tucker Silva, and that is Wall Street Watch.
Yeah, we got to talk about cattle prices at some point. The beef is too damn high.
Not getting any better.
The beef is too damn high.
Well, I'm just looking forward to some of that lab-grown meat.
I mean, especially we're heading right into prime grilling season,
Just
Michael.
Lab-grown T-bone.
How do you grow the bone?
It's plastic.
It's my favorite part, though.
Very high melt point.
Let's talk a little bit about this piece from the New York Times. It's titled "Spirit Airlines' Demise Could Help Other Airlines."
Insofar as there won't be as much competition, and therefore prices will not need to compete with them on price quite as much.
Well, and here's the thing. So there are a bunch of fixed assets that are going to be for sale now. Whether you're talking about airplanes that Spirit was leasing that someone else could pick up and lease, whether you're talking about gates and landing slots that are available at airports now. And so it is something where, hey, as airlines are facing all kinds of cost pressures on the fuel side of things, for the ones that are forward-looking, they might be able to pick up some assets that they would want to add in the future at discount prices.
Yeah. One thing so all these airlines did a few years ago, Delta, American, United is who I'm talking about here. They all rolled out new pricing models. And what I mean by that is not an entirely new way of pricing the airplanes like Southwest did, but if you want to on American right now, you can buy what I think they call their basic fare. You won't get to choose a seat. You won't get...
Yep.
I don't think you'll get a checked bag. You might even have to pay for a carry-on bag, just like Spirit was doing. They were forced to do that, or they felt forced to do that, because they wanted to have a price point that was more similar to what Spirit was offering. I'll be interested to see if they even hold on to that. Right? Like this is a money loser for them. They don't make money on that seat that they are selling dramatically, or if they do, it's a very slim profit margin. And they only really offered it because, hey, we can't have consistently Spirit Airlines showing price tickets, ticket prices that are 30% cheaper than ours. They won't anymore.
No, and the other piece is, I'll quote here from the piece. In May of 2024, the airline operated 3.4% of all domestic flights.
Spirit did.
Yes.
Okay.
Before it shut down, Spirit's schedule for May would have amounted to just 1.1% of domestic flights. But the thing that you have to focus on here is, look, if there is supply of seats that is coming off as well, but you still have the same number of flyers who want to fly, all else being equal, that in and of itself is going to push ticket prices up because you have the same number of passengers, but you don't have the same number of planes flying right now.
Right.
So you've got a situation where this is coming, again, like I'm not saying that this is good because, again, the seeds for this demise, look, back in 2022, was it, when JetBlue attempted to buy them?
Yeah, started up, yep.
And I think it was shut down in 24. Look, the DOJ did no favors to Spirit with rejecting that merger.
Agreed.
There's also no guarantee that a combined JetBlue Spirit would have actually been able to survive.
Can we talk about that right now? Because JetBlue, the company, by the way, who has not made a profit since 2019, they're carrying about $8.5 to $9 billion worth of debt right now. I mean, this is not a financially healthy company. There's been this fascinating, partisan debate that I've been seeing. Who's to blame for the demise of Spirit?
Everyone wants to blame someone. No,
right.
Here's the thing. JetBlue was losing money, still is. Spirit was losing money, still is. Their potential path to surviving was through a merger that still might have resulted in the combined company going out of business.
Yeah.
They would have had a better chance to compete, absolutely, and it completely sucks that the DOJ did not even give them a chance to survive because, again, as we've seen, Spirit is they tried to declare bankruptcy 3 times in 3 years. It just would not that's not good. That's not healthy. So it's clear that freak chance is better than no chance at all. But it's unclear that the combined company would have, actually been able to survive either. These were two companies that were losing money trying to live by merging and finding some efficiencies. You can absolutely blame the Biden DOJ for not letting them merge.
Yep.
But even if they had, it might not have worked.
Sure. And you can blame, high oil prices on the Trump administration if you want. I don't think the blame game is terribly useful in all of this context. Here's another question. I don't have there's no insinuation whatsoever that JetBlue has a, going concern risk right now. If they do, they'll be required to disclose it. But they haven't made any money on an annual basis since 2019. That's not a sign of a healthy company. Were they to go bankrupt, I know there was this talk of a bailout for Spirit. How big is the push for a bailout of JetBlue if JetBlue starts going that direction? Because there's not a whole lot of competition left at that point. If we're talking about full-on, I don't mean bankruptcy because there's a lot of different types of bankruptcies. Spirit went through 2 of them over the course of the last 4 years, and their plan was to reemerge. So JetBlue can go through bankruptcy. That's not what I'm talking about. But if JetBlue is pushed to liquidate, do you have to bail them out? You don't have to bail them out.
One does not have to do anything.
Right. But there would certainly be immense political pressure to do so.
So here's the thing. This is potentially something that's closer than you think. And what I mean by that is their free cash flow right now, trailing 12 months, is negative $1.16 billion. They're sitting on $2.27 in cash and short-term investments. Maybe they've got some credit lines outstanding that they haven't tapped in anything yet.
And to be clear, I've got to imagine all of this disclosure happened prior to – this was beginning of the year, right? I mean, do we know anything about their financial state since they started paying whatever they're paying now for jet fuel?
Let me see if I can find the most recent quarter. Hold on. Just give me 1 second. Let's see. When is there? No, that's annual. Tucker, thank you for putting me on the clock. Here we go. Q1 free cash flow was. What the heck does that even mean?
Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock.
No, I can't read this right now. It's too much pressure. In any case, their free cash flow is not going to improve as a result of jet fuel prices moving up. It's going to get worse. And so this is something where, again, depending on what happens on the demand side of things, you could have a situation where JetBlue is facing bankruptcy questions in the next 2 years. Like, that's not crazy to say.
Sure.
And by the way, that's reflected in the stock price right now, which is $4.95 a share. And to compare that to where it's been, over the last 5 years or so, from 5 years ago, it's 75% down.
Yeah. Not
From
a great
3 years
indication.
ago, it's 31% down. It's again, and by the way, you see this also in the product that they're offering. I was one of the, I was very much Team JetBlue for the longest time.
Oh, yeah. They've been bottom of the reliability rankings for a better part of a decade.
You can see that, there's a difference in product quality that you get flying them now relative to, again, I put Delta at the top of the list, but look, you even go on, a United or an American flight or Southwest, quite honestly, you fly on, you're like, oh, yeah, product quality is, pretty solid. JetBlue, you get on some of the planes and you're like, man, the TVs don't work half the time now. The seats are kind of ripped in some of the ones that haven't had the cabins replaced yet.
It's showing its age, and they don't have the cash flow to reimprove.
So we'll see what happens there going forward, but worth watching. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're talking gas prices after this.
Subscribe now to our YouTube page, where you'll find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange. We'll get you caught up on anything and everything you might have missed right here on the Financial Exchange.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Over the years, it's easy to collect investment accounts, including old 401ks and multiple IRAs. But at some point, it can get hard to keep track of what you actually have. Too many accounts can lead to confusion, overlapping investments, and sometimes missed opportunities. Our new guide is called Consolidating Investment Accounts, and in it, you'll learn how to simplify your financial life, giving you a clearer picture of your strategy, your risk, and your progress. The guide will also walk through how to avoid common mistakes and build a more organized, intentional plan. Call us today at 800-393-4001 and get your free copy of our new guide called Consolidating Investment Accounts. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Some of the biggest estate planning mistakes are the ones you don't even know you're making. At Cushing & Dolan, they've seen it all. Plans that aren't complete, that only rely on a will or lack of funding of a trust. These are the kind of mistakes that can lead to probate, unnecessary taxes, or even putting your assets at risk. As your life changes, so should your estate plan. Marriage, grandkids, new assets, and even changes in tax law can impact how your plan should be structured. That's why Cushing & Dolan created a brand new guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Potholes to Avoid. It walks you through the most common and costly mistakes and how to help protect your assets, your family, and your future. Call 866-848-5699 to get your free copy today. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
For many families, an energy bill can mean difficult choices, wondering when or even how it will get paid. It shouldn't be that way. For more than 40 years, Citizens Energy has helped families afford life's basic needs. First, through Joe for Oil, and now through Joe for Sun. A simple way to save on electricity at no cost to you. No installation, no equipment, and you keep your utility company. We keep it simple and help you lower your utility bill. Call 1-855-JOE-FOR-SUN or visit citizensenergy.com to see if you qualify. Sponsored by Citizens Energy.
Our Senators Edward Markey and Elizabeth Warren and Representative Lori Trahan are standing up for radio listeners like us by supporting legislation to keep AM radio in cars. They know the value of local radio in times of emergency. Now it's time for Congress to finish the job and pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. Learn more at dependonam.com. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
When a heart stops, the clock starts. You are the first responder until help arrives. In that moment, 4 minutes equals brain damage. 6 minutes equals too late in an emergency. The first responder is you. We need you. Will you be ready? Learn CPR. Visit heart.org/nation. That's heart.org/nation.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
Text us 617-362-1385 with your comments and questions about today's show, and let us know what you think about the stories we're covering. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, let's talk a little bit about gas prices. AAA national average right now is sitting at $4.45 and 0.7 cents. And the big thing, we use about 375 million gallons of gasoline a day in the United States. And so if you do the math just based on how much gas prices have gone up over the last week, which is around 33 cents, it means that you are seeing Americans in the aggregate paying around $125 million extra dollars a day for gas compared to a week ago.
Yeah, we had done the math on some of this, earlier this year before tax refunds started going out. And it seemed to me that should gas prices remain around this high, that, for the average person, they're spending, around 3/4 of that tax refund on these elevated gas prices. Because what I'm trying to get to there is, there is obviously some benefit to tax cuts this year.
Sure.
The One Big Beautiful Bill Act is expected to increase the deficit by $4 trillion over the next decade. So,
it doesn't do that by not doing anything.
Right. It's government spending. On the other hand, this doesn't really work exactly because it's not like gas prices are a result of a new tax. But, if the U.S. consumes about 7.4 billion barrels of oil per year, and you're talking about a price increase of around $40, that's like, close to $300 billion. That's going to, some of that's going to the bottom lines of Exxon and, executives there, but a lot of it's being sapped out of Americans' pockets through higher prices. And it's being partially offset by things like, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, investment from, previously heavily profitable companies like Facebook and Google that are spending on AI. And that can last for a while, I guess, in the aggregate, so long as we don't get to actual shortage problems.
Long-term care costs can reach thousands of dollars per month and can put a serious strain on your savings. The experts at Cushing & Dolan often see families caught off guard by that reality. Without the right plan in place, those costs can quickly eat through a lifetime of your hard work. But here's the shocker. Many estate plans don't protect your assets from those expenses. The right strategy may involve specific types of trusts designed to help protect your assets, but timing matters. Cushing & Dolan has a brand new guide called Detour Ahead: Estate Planning Potholes to Avoid. It breaks down some of the most common and costly mistakes people make and explains how to protect your assets, your family, and your future. Call 866-848-5699 to get your free copy today. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Piece in the Wall Street Journal: an aluminum crisis is roiling the auto industry. And basically what you are seeing here, I'll quote the relevant part: the U.S. cost of primary aluminum from smelters is nearly 90% higher than a year ago. The war in Iran is driving up prices by effectively choking off shipments from Persian Gulf countries, which supply about 1/5 of the aluminum consumed in the United States.
And don't forget that aluminum that's consumed from that area also faces a 50% U.S. tariff.
Yes, but to be fair, you can't tariff something if you can't import it.
True.
So, It doesn't compound that way. But what you are seeing right now is that effectively a metric ton of aluminum in the United States is costing $6,100 right now, compared with $3,220 a year ago.
Well, it's actually doubled, yeah. Okay.
And so the problem that you have here is biggest actually for Ford, which is, again, it feels like Ford is just like running in. This is not a problem that they like could have foreseen. So
No.
like I don't blame them. But basically what happened here is that Ford was trying to improve the fuel efficiency of its F-150 and went to a more aluminum construction in it. And so because of how big the F-150 is, like just from a vehicle size and weight standpoint, this is something that is disproportionately affecting Ford, because not only is the F-150 big, but it's the biggest car, truck, whatever that they sell. And so
what you're telling me is pretty much the only product line that makes Ford any money
is being
also
impacted
the
by
hardest
this.
hit one
Yes,
out there.
it's brutal here, and so they're trying to deal with it the best that they can, but ultimately it's something that is just again really impacting Ford, because they expect their commodity costs to go from $1 billion to $2 billion this year due to aluminum prices moving up.
To be fair, I can't imagine that I recognize why Ford's F-150 and specifically, Ford only really makes money on giant vehicles these days, so they're going to have a bigger aluminum problem than just about anybody else. But it can't be that, Toyota is having a really easy time acquiring aluminum at good prices right now. Like, this is a global problem that every auto manufacturer is facing. Ford, arguably, because of changes to their design, as well as just the fact that every one of their cars tends to have a lot of metal in it, must be just the hardest hit with all of this.
You would think so. Yeah, it's not like Toyota is sitting there going, "Oh, we're making all of our cars with jeans." Like, no, like
good thing we switched to bamboo 6 years ago.
Yeah,
no, that's not really how it works.
The denim Corolla really took off. They're all kind of in the same boat. It's just the product mix and sourcing is clearly impacting Ford in ways that other companies are not being impacted as heavily.
There was also, domestically here, there was that fire that took off an aluminum. What do we call an aluminum factory? Is it a
smelter?
Smelter. Took offline. Was that in New York or Ohio? Somewhere around there, over the course of the last few months. So that is still offline. Ford's obviously, pushing the Trump administration, asking for a relief valve on the tariff piece of it, at least, if they can finally get some of that aluminum into the United States, which I don't know. But again, the war in Iran and changes to supply there was not the intent. The tariffs were, right? That was part of the plan here, is we want more of this stuff done domestically. And certainly Ford is going to be trying to push for more of that to be done domestically over the course of the next few months.
The word smelt has like two of the most divergent meanings out of any word in the world, in my opinion, where it's like, depending on the context, it's either, I'm talking about using a bunch of heat to turn one metal into a refined product, or I'm talking about a really small fish. Let's take a quick break, and you can decide what we talk about next on the Financial Exchange.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up, because we have something better.
Stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org today to learn more.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today we're talking about the top estate planning mistakes to avoid. Todd, what is the downside of adding your kids to your accounts or adding their names to your real estate deeds as a joint owner? Won't this avoid probate?
You're absolutely right. It would avoid probate, but there are better ways to avoid probate than just doing something simple, right? Simple isn't always better. Throwing a name on an account or adding a designated beneficiary or a joint owner on a piece of property might not be the best way to go. Here's the problem. If you name one of your children as a joint owner and you have 3 children and you put that child on just because it's convenient and they're geographically close to you, well, you could be accidentally disinheriting your other children because this property, this asset will only go to that child. That child doesn't have to give it to the other kids. So that's a problem. And if you put your name, if you add a child's name to your real estate, now you're exposing it to that child's creditors, that child's potential divorces. That's never good. And plus, you've lost control over it. If you try to sell it, you need that kid's permission, and half the money would go to that kid. Please, folks, set up a trust, fund your trust much better than just trying to do it shorthanded and just give away assets or adding names to accounts.
Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide that details the estate planning blunders to avoid. You can request this brand new guide by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM. Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
For many hardworking families and retirees, an energy bill comes with an impossible choice. Paying the bills, putting food on your table, and keeping your family warm in winter and your home cool for the summer. But it shouldn't be that way. For more than 40 years, Citizens Energy has made one simple promise: to help households afford life's basic needs. Through Joe for Oil, we help neighbors through the coldest winter nights. Now, we're building on that same promise with Joe for Sun, a new way to save on electricity year-round. Our solar projects are already in communities across Massachusetts and New York, helping thousands of households save money. For many families, that means saving up to 50% on electricity. No installation, no equipment, and you keep your utility company. Like my dad's program before, we keep it simple, helping lower your utility bill through community solar at no cost to you. Call 1-855-JOE-FOR-SUN or visit citizensenergy.com to see if you qualify. You've trusted Citizens Energy to show up when it matters most. We're still here, ready to help. Sponsored by Citizens Energy.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
Our Senators Edward Markey and Elizabeth Warren and Representative James McGovern are standing up for radio listeners like us by supporting legislation to keep AM radio in cars. They know the value of local radio in times of emergency. Now it's time for Congress to finish the job and pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. Learn more at dependonam.com. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a guide this month titled Consolidating Investment Accounts. Mike, what are some of the problems that people run into when they have accounts scattered everywhere?
The first one is just difficult to maintain and monitor. I can't tell you how many times I've met with somebody who has a life insurance policy that still has their brother on it instead of their wife or their husband, for example. So it does become really tough to monitor those things. If you're getting to required minimum distribution age, there can be certain rules around where you take money out of specific accounts, and if you miss it, there can be tax penalties. So it just becomes complicated to administer everything.
Despite that, there are still some cases where it makes sense to maintain a number of separate accounts as opposed to consolidating.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we all know cases where, hey, that new bank is going to give you a better CD rate or introductory rate, and that can be worth real money. In other cases, if you have a retirement plan, there can be special benefits to keeping the money there. Maybe it is a excellent plan with really low costs. Maybe it'll allow you to avoid a required minimum distribution if you're still working into your 70s. Or there can be other strategies too, having money in a retirement plan and allowing you to do what's called a backdoor Roth conversion, all sorts of things that allow you to take advantage of having accounts in specific places.
Folks, the guide is titled Consolidating Investment Accounts, and there are two ways to request it. The first is by calling 800-393-4001. The second, by going to armstrongadvisory.com. That number again is 800-393-4001, or request it online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
It's Chuck, it is Mike, and it's Tucker too. All three of us here. And as we kick things off today, we've got stocks not really doing much of anything in the aggregate right now. The Dow is off 206 points. The S&P is up 2. The NASDAQ Composite's up 49. So just kind of treading water. Nothing too exciting going on in stock world. Bond world, we do have something interesting. The 30-year Treasury just crossed 5% again. Yeah. And the 10-year's up another 4.2 basis points to 4.42. And so this is going to put further pressure on mortgage rates, which closed on Friday at 6.44. Probably getting back close to 6.50, somewhere in that ballpark, depending on how the rest of the day goes here. The news on Hormuz, whole bunch of chatter about different things from either side. It's been kind of a wild morning, actually. At around 6:20, Iran's Fars news network, which is state-affiliated media, said that a U.S. destroyer had been struck by 2 missiles. The United States denied that and subsequently indicated that there were 2 destroyers now operating within the Persian Gulf after transiting overnight and letting a couple of ships out. There also have been a couple of different civilian ships that have been struck overnight. And as we sit right now, the UAE has indicated that their missile defense systems are active, and locals are reporting explosions, but no one really knows what's going on because we're not really getting a ton of information. So I think the big thing, the strait largely remains closed. We'll see if transit picks up, but to this point, no meaningful uptick in transit.
Did you just talk about South Korea?
The South Korean tanker that got hit?
Yeah, so the South Korean media has now confirmed it. So the South Korean Foreign Ministry confirmed that a general cargo vessel was anchored near the UAE and, quote, caught fire after an explosion.
And it was a UAE tanker that was empty that was struck as well overnight with 2 Iranian drones. So, again, this week is kind of a pivotal one. Things are either going to heat up militarily again, or I think something starts to, kind of ease meaningfully, just because I don't think you can continue to have this ramp up of rhetoric and, and poking and prodding actions from each side without eventually something escalating further. And it's a very unstable equilibrium, and so it's either you got to figure some way to get this thing moving, or it feels like things are going to escalate is kind of where this week is right now. Let's talk a little bit about the Fed. Well, actually, I didn't go through the rest of markets yet, so let me finish wrapping things up there. Dollar index is up 0.19% to 98.19. Gold is off 67.30 an ounce to 45.77. And crude oil West Texas Intermediate up $1.35. Brent crude up $4 a barrel. So you've got some renewed upward pressure on oil prices. AAA national average for gas is above $4.45 a gallon now. Diesel is within 17 cents of the 2022 high. And barring anything shocking, diesel's got a pretty good chance of hitting that high sometime in the next week to 10 days.
So last week, Chuck, we had Jay Powell's final press conference as chairman of the Federal Reserve. We also got the news from him that he's going to be staying on in his role as governor, which I did not think was likely even very recently. And they are facing this problem with risk of higher inflation, and they've been dealing with that problem of higher inflation since 2022, never quite getting back to their 2% target. With a new chair coming in, I guess I have a multitude of questions here. I mean, one of which is how high do oil prices need to get before you start being more worried about a growth problem in the U.S. than you do an inflation problem? But two, and this is the bigger one, Kevin Warsh has pretty clearly wanted to be on a path of lowering interest rates. The Fed never has gotten back to their 2% target. They keep saying that they have a target. Is it even still meaningful anymore to have a 2% inflation target at this point, given they don't seem fundamentally serious about getting back to it?
Here's the thing. I agree with you. You can't kill the 2% inflation target before you get there, though.
I think you shouldn't, but I have no evidence that Kevin Warsh is going to follow your thinking on that.
It's one where, and look, here's ultimately how this ends up working, is with anyone, talk to anyone who has lived in Brazil, talk to anyone who's lived in Argentina, talk to anyone who's lived in South Africa, Turkey, places that have dealt with monetary
messiness,
policy procedure that has gone awry. What they'll tell you is, look, ultimately, if the central bank decides to start cutting or changing policy more dovishly while things are still too hot, it has the opposite effect that you intend.
Yep.
Because it's basically saying, okay, we're going to run the economy hot, and the long end of the yield curve, 10-year bonds, 30-year bonds, they blow out topside because the bond market says, fine, you're not serious about this? Great, we don't want to own the long-term bonds because think of it this way. If you buy a long-term bond in the U.S. right now, a 30-year treasury, the U.S. government gives you 5% a year for the next 30 years. Mm-hmm. And you say, remember, the people who buy those and just hold them, It's mostly insurance companies and things like that.
Big institutions, not just insurance companies, but yeah.
Yeah, like pension plans. Like
Sure.
there aren't very many individuals who just are scouring, the brokerage sites for like, hey, what's the best 30-year treasury bond? And like, it's just not how it works. So you've got these liabilities that you're pricing out 30 years into the future. And as an insurer, you're saying, okay, here's what inflation's going to be. Here's, the policies that I have. Here's what I need to hedge for. If the central bank says, hey, we don't care about inflation in the short term, you as that buyer immediately say, well, I got to get paid something else. Otherwise, I might be underwater in 30 years. And so, 5 isn't going to cut it. You got to pay me 5.5 in order to compensate me properly for that risk. And so this is the thing where ultimately, here's the thing about, everyone's really skeptical that Warsh is going to do a good job. And I'm not everyone, but like you're getting this pushback that he's going to be just a toady, a flunky, a lackey. Like there's all kinds of words that we can use for the Trump administration. He may be, he may not. I don't know because he hasn't done anything yet. What I do know is that Scott Bessent, in the year leading up to him being appointed Treasury Secretary, talked all about, hey, Janet Yellen's selling this mix of bonds. Like, how could she do this? Blah, blah, blah. It's wrong. And
very critical of the members of the Biden administration in order to get considered for the job of Treasury Secretary.
And Bessent took the job and basically hasn't made a shift in terms of bond issuance from what Yellen was doing. It's the exact same or within sniffing distance of it. So part of this, I'm a big believer that, hey, a lot of people, when you're campaigning for any job, a lot of people, and I'm not saying this is right, but a lot of people today, like, you say what you need to do in order to get the job. And when you then get into the seat, especially a seat like, chair of the Federal Reserve, you understand the gravity of the situation. And just like Scott Bessent didn't just upend the entire model of, hey, here's the issuance that we're going to do for U.S. Treasury bonds, I suspect that Kevin Warsh is not going to want his legacy to be the dude that brought on the second peak in inflation in the 2020s.
I tend to agree. One caveat that I'll throw out here. President Trump was not criticizing the intricacies of bond issuance by the Biden administration, or at least not heavily. He has been, for the last several years, criticizing the Federal Reserve directly and calling specifically for lower interest rates. And I view those two as different, right? Scott Bessent found something to criticize about the Biden administration that he took issue with. Here, Kevin Warsh has, stated publicly that he is in agreement with the president about where interest rates should go, and the president has been much more public about that criticism than what Bessent latched onto. So, again,
it's fair.
We will have to wait and see. I am with you. Judge people by their actions, not by their words. And Warsh has not had time to take any actions to this point. But I do very much fear the move away from a 2% inflation target, because already as it is, when I ask people, I'm not talking about trained economists, I'm talking about retirees and the general public that I speak to, and I ask them, hey, if you had to bet, will inflation be hotter than the last decade or cooler than the last decade? The answer is almost universally hotter. Now, they're probably not actually thinking about the measurement that the last decade includes 2022 when we saw 9% inflation. But
Sure.
When you ask that question, it's hotter. I think inflation expectations are substantially hotter than they were for the last decade, and that can be a problem for the Fed.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I got a couple housing pieces I want to cover. We've also got trivia next.
Missed a show? You can find them on our YouTube page. The show streams live every day, but every hour is archived, including all of our most newsworthy interviews. Go to YouTube and search for the Financial Exchange Radio Show.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. One of the biggest challenges in financial planning is seeing the full picture. When your investments are spread across multiple accounts, it can be difficult to know how much you actually have and whether your strategy is really working. You might be taking on more risk than you realize or missing opportunities to better align your portfolio. Bringing your accounts together can help create clarity so you can see your total assets, your true allocation, and make more informed decisions about your financial future. Our new guide is called Consolidating Investment Accounts. It walks you through how to get organized, simplify your strategy, and build a more complete financial plan. Call 800-393-4001 to get your free copy today. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide by visiting armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Some of the biggest estate planning mistakes are the ones you don't even know you're making. At Cushing & Dolan, they've seen it all. Plans that aren't complete, that only rely on a will or lack of funding of a trust. These are the kind of mistakes that can lead to probate, unnecessary taxes, or even putting your assets at risk. As your life changes, so should your estate plan. Marriage, grandkids, new assets, and even changes in tax law can impact how your plan should be structured. That's why Cushing & Dolan created a brand new guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Potholes to Avoid. It walks you through the most common and costly mistakes and how to help protect your assets, your family, and your future. Call 866-848-5699 to get your free copy today. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Our Senators Edward Markey and Elizabeth Warren and Representative Jake Auchincloss are standing up for radio listeners like us by supporting legislation to keep AM radio in cars. They know the value of local radio in times of emergency. Now it's time for Congress to finish the job and pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. Learn more at dependonam.com. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
In a heartbeat, you could be the difference.
Mark collapsed from cardiac arrest.
9 out of 10 people who suffer cardiac arrest outside the hospital don't survive.
It took 30 minutes of chest compressions to finally feel a pulse.
Most of the time, it's because no one nearby performs CPR. But together, we can change that. Extraordinary things happen when people take action. A small step, a simple skill, a life-saving moment. HeartWalk brings communities together to create health and hope for every heartbeat. Every walker who joins HeartWalk, every dollar donated, means more people trained in CPR, more research, and more life-saving moments for everyone. Take the first step and register for your local HeartWalk. Extraordinary starts with you. Join HeartWalk today. Find your local HeartWalk at heartwalk.org.
Follow the Financial Exchange Show on Instagram and see what's driving the conversation about Wall Street and economic trends. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Time for trivia here on the Financial Exchange. On this day in 1979, the United Kingdom elected their first ever female prime minister. She would go on to serve 3 consecutive terms, becoming the longest-serving prime minister in the UK for the 20th century. So our trivia question today is simply, who was the UK's first female prime minister? Once again, who is the UK's first female prime minister? Be the second person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, along with keyword trivia, and win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Once again, the second correct response to text us to the number 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, along with the keyword trivia, will win that t-shirt. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
A little bit of news here from the UAE. The UAE Ministry of Defense has now confirmed that they detected 4 cruise missiles launched at them from Iran, and the sounds heard by residents were 3 out of the 4 being intercepted, while another one splashed down off the coast. This is in turn probably what's pressuring stocks to the tune of about a 0.5% fall in the last 5 or 10 minutes now.
Sorry, to be clear, this was not a strike on an UAE flagged vessel. This was a strike on the United Arab Emirates.
It's
an attempted strike.
It's unclear exactly where these were intercepted and what the targets are. We don't know specifically, but it does appear that they were heading towards the UAE, the country, not necessarily vessels.
And I did see that they had put residents under, strike warnings.
So they did that earlier today,
that was
but
this morning,
that turned out to not be an actual attack. In this case, it does appear that the UAE has confirmed that missiles were fired at them from Iran. It's felt for the last week or so that the UAE and Iran are not in a good spot right now, is a nice way of putting it. Even if everything goes well and improves here over the coming months, it would not surprise me if the two of them have their own little affair over the next few years, just because there's no love lost between the two of them right now. Let's talk a little bit about housing. Again, we'll update you as we know more, but again, something relevant and market moving there. First, from the Wall Street Journal. High housing costs are pushing foreclosures to a 6-year high. Homes with foreclosure filings jumped 26% in the first quarter. Here's the thing. Housing foreclosures are not a problem for the broad U.S. economy because they are coming off such a low level that this is not something that is problematic in any way, shape, or form. It's not to say that certain families aren't having trouble paying these higher housing costs. I understand that it's tough for families that are out there dealing with these. But when we talk about foreclosures becoming a problem, it's not something that is impacting the U.S. economy in any way, shape, or form right now.
So the last quarter that the St. Louis Fed has data on was the fourth quarter, so we'll get an update soon on this. But the rate of delinquency on single-family residential mortgages was 1.78% in that fourth quarter. If it hit... It was about the same in the first quarter of last year, so a 25% jump on that, right, might bring you to the low twos. We did not get below 2.34% delinquency rate on mortgages at any point during the 2010 decade.
Yes.
So if we start pushing delinquency rates over 3%, we've got a problem. Again, not a problem for the state of banks or anything like that in my view, but that is a meaningful problem because we didn't really spend much time above 3% any time other than the Great Financial Crisis. But we are not in problem territory with mortgages, so one, don't plan on getting a whole bunch of deals on foreclosed homes, and two, don't worry about this in the context of the greater economy.
No, I would agree. Another piece here that I do think is interesting for a broader discussion. Taxes on second homes are springing up across America. And so you've got different local governments that are coming out and saying, hey, if you have homes that are not primary residences...
Pied-à-terre.
I don't speak French. What does that even mean in French? I don't speak French.
Say it again, Mike.
Pied, P-I-E-D, terre, T-E-R-R-E.
I have no idea.
I don't know what it means in French either, other than it's your second home.
To be, I'm guessing terre is something about like land or earth.
Yeah.
And pied is probably like, usually that's like foot in the Romance languages, so like foot of the earth. I don't.
It's a smaller second home or studio.
Foot and mouth disease.
Foot to the earth, foot to earth, or foot on the ground.
Okay.
Is the literal translation, but it refers to, yes, an apartment in New York City pretty much.
Okay. So you've got New York City. New York City is planning on taxing an additional property tax for second homes worth $5 million or more.
Rhode Island is considering a Taylor Swift tax on homes over $1 million, and New Hampshire recently voted down, but it did make it to a vote, a tax on second homes worth over $500,000. So many different places are testing this stuff out.
Guys, this is dumb. If you think housing is too expensive for the people in your jurisdiction to buy it, build more. That's the, again, if you want to tax it, fine. Here's the impact that it'll have. It will make that house more affordable because in order for people to be able to buy it and pay the taxes, the headline price will have to come down.
Yep.
That is something that will happen.
So, Chuck, you owned a home in Somerville.
Yes.
And this this is not a new idea. I owned one too. In Somerville, you got around a 30% property tax discount.
It was a flat value. It was a $250,000 abatement on the valuation.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't recall. But anyway, for living in your home in Somerville, for making that your primary residence, you got, what worked out to be a pretty substantial property tax cut for doing so. So plenty of places have tested this out. That would be another way of getting at the exact same thing, saying, hey, primary residences, you do this. New York is calling it your second home tax. It's not a new concept.
Build more housing.
But it's not going to fix the housing problem.
You want cheaper housing, build more housing. You want evidence of this? Look at Austin, Texas. During the big 2021-22 relocation frenzy, Austin, Texas said, well, it didn't say it because the city can't speak, but the people in Austin, Texas said, hey, we got to build way more housing. And they did. And rents have been falling ever since because, when you actually supply the needed housing on the market, rents end up falling.
One difference here, I don't see this as a proposal to make housing more affordable.
Which is why it's, well, no.
I think it's mainly,
think this will.
No, I think it's mainly we want to tax the rich. And we need to, figure out how to do that. And so this is our way of doing that. Rather than, hey, this is going to solve our housing affordability problems.
Let's take a quick break. I want to discuss this more when we return.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Our Senators Edward Markey and Elizabeth Warren and Representative Stephen Lynch are standing up for radio listeners like us by supporting legislation to keep AM radio in cars. They know the value of local radio in times of emergency. Now it's time for Congress to finish the job and pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. Learn more at dependonam.com. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Long-term care costs can reach thousands of dollars per month and can put a serious strain on your savings. The experts at Cushing & Dolan often see families caught off guard by that reality. Without the right plan in place, those costs can quickly eat through a lifetime of your hard work. But here's the shocker. Many estate plans don't protect your assets from those expenses. The right strategy may involve specific types of trusts designed to help protect your assets, but timing matters. Cushing & Dolan has a brand new guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Potholes to Avoid. It breaks down some of the most common and costly mistakes people make and explains how to help protect your assets, your family, and your future. Call 866-848-5699 to get your free copy today. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
For many hardworking families and retirees, an energy bill comes with an impossible choice. Paying the bills, putting food on your table, and keeping your family warm in winter and your home cool for the summer. But it shouldn't be that way. For more than 40 years, Citizens Energy has made one simple promise: to help households afford life's basic needs. Through Joe for Oil, we help neighbors through the coldest winter nights. Now, we're building on that same promise with Joe for Sun, a new way to save on electricity year-round. Our solar projects are already in communities across Massachusetts and New York, helping thousands of households save money. For many families, that means saving up to 50% on electricity. No installation, no equipment, and you keep your utility company. Like my dad's program before, we keep it simple, helping lower your utility bill through community solar at no cost to you. Call 1-855-JOE-FOR-SUN or visit citizensenergy.com to see if you qualify. You've trusted Citizens Energy to show up when it matters most. We're still here, ready to help.
Sponsored by Citizens Energy.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today we're talking about the top estate planning mistakes to avoid. Todd, what is the downside of adding your kids to your accounts or adding their names to your real estate deeds as a joint owner? Won't this avoid probate?
You're absolutely right. It would avoid probate, but there are better ways to avoid probate than just doing something simple, right? Simple isn't always better. Throwing a name on an account or adding a designated beneficiary or a joint owner on a piece of property might not be the best way to go. Here's the problem. If you name one of your children as a joint owner and you have 3 children and you put that child on just because it's convenient and they're geographically close to you, well, you could be accidentally disinheriting your other children because this property, this asset will only go to that child. That child doesn't have to give it to the other kids. So that's a problem. And if you put your name, if you add a child's name to your real estate, now you're exposing it to that child's creditors, that child's potential divorces. That's never good. And plus, you've lost control over it. If you try to sell it, you need that kid's permission, and half the money would go to that kid. Please, folks, set up a trust, fund your trust much better than just trying to do it shorthanded and just give away assets or adding names to accounts.
Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide that details the estate planning blunders to avoid. You can request this brand new guide by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Time now for Wall Street Watch, tracking the stocks, the data, and the headlines driving markets so far today. Right here on the Financial Exchange Radio
Markets
Network.
have now turned lower, with oil prices jumping higher as a result of increased military tensions with the Strait of Hormuz, specifically with the developing situation involving Iran and the UAE. More on that coming up here. Right now, the Dow is down 0.8% or 401 points. S&P 500 down over 1/3%. NASDAQ down about 1/3% as well. Russell 2000 is up about 0.1%. 10-year Treasury yield up 5 basis points at 4.436%. And oil jumping nearly 4% higher, trading at $105 a barrel. Aside from Iran, the big development over the weekend came from GameStop after CEO Ryan Cohen made an unsolicited offer to buy eBay for about $56 billion. Cohen told the Wall Street Journal that putting his video game retailer and eBay under one roof could create opportunities to cut costs and improve earnings. eBay up by 4%, while GameStop is down by about 6%. Meanwhile, shares in Norwegian Cruise Line dropping 8% after the company cut its outlook, citing higher fuel prices, and also said consumers are rethinking travel plans. Elsewhere, Tyson Food posted better than expected quarterly results, but said soaring cattle prices weighed on its results. And after today's closing bell, we'll see earnings from Paramount Skydance and Palantir. I'm Tucker Silva, and that is Wall Street Watch. On the previous segment, we asked you the trivia question, who is the UK's first female prime minister? That would be Margaret Thatcher. And our winner today was George from Waltham, Mass., taking home a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Congrats to George. And we play trivia every day here on the Financial Exchange. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
A little bit earlier in the show, we'd indicated a confirmation from the UAE Ministry of Defense that air defenses had been activated as they had 4 cruise missiles from Iran that were attacking them, and 3 of the 4 had been intercepted. The 4th had splashed down in the sea. A second post from the UAE Ministry of Defense now that the UAE is engaging with additional missile attacks, including drones and ballistic missiles and cruise missiles from Iran. Also, indications that oil facilities near the Gulf of Oman port of Fujairah are now apparently on fire. It's not clear if it was from debris or if something got through. But again, you've got a little bit of an escalation that appears to be happening here, and we'll see where this goes. In response, Tucker noted oil's up. 10-year Treasury now up 6 basis points on the day, and the 30-year up 5.3 to 5.019%. So the 30-year breaching that 5% level for the first time in a while here. And again, everyone's been pretty itchy in the region for the last couple weeks. We'll see if this is something that kind of flares out and goes away over the next 24 to 36 hours, or if this flares up instead and becomes kind of a reignition of the conflict. It's again, we're reporting this as we get information coming in. No one really knows a ton right now, just because the fog of war is pretty thick when we're looking at this. Getting back to one final point that I want to make on the second home changes in tax rates. Mike had mentioned, hey, this doesn't seem to be about trying to make housing cheaper. It seems to be about trying to tax the rich to bring in additional tax revenue, which also is another thing that I get at, which is, okay, ultimately, you're trying to deal with the symptoms of a problem and not the actual cause. And in doing so, you're being highly inefficient. And look, if the rich people decide, okay, fine, like we're just going to not go there, great, you're not going to get the tax revenue that you want then.
Oh, yeah. I was not trying to voice the opinion that I think it's a good idea to go and do so. But I think clearly that's been the push from, we've got the new proposed, or did that pass the California wealth tax?
No idea.
So there's the California wealth tax. There is the New York City second home tax. There's the Rhode Island proposal. I view, again, they're all floated with a lot of different ideas, but I think the clear trend that I've seen has been a pivot away from, we're trying to make housing more affordable, which, Massachusetts is going to go vote on, for instance, a rent control bill, which is clearly about trying to do that. Will have the opposite effect, by the way, versus what I'm seeing here, which is, our budgets are a mess. We need to raise revenue. Let's go get it from the wealthiest in New York City's
case. Which will work for like 3 years until they're like, okay, fine, we'll move. New York, quite honestly, New York City, you can pull it off.
Yes.
There's only one New York City.
Yeah, and the people that own those second places are like, well, I moved to Florida to avoid all of the income taxes. I'll just pay it on the property.
Well, there's only one New York City.
Yeah.
If you want what New York City has to offer, that's it. As someone who's a proud New Englander, there's a lot of beach out there. Okay? So if Rhode Island says, okay, we're doing this, okay, fine. Then you're going to go up to Maine. And then if Maine decides, okay, we're going to do this, fine. Then you're going to go down to Delaware. And if Delaware says it, great. You'll go to, there's lots of beach out there. There's only one New York City.
Yeah, always comes down to how onerous we're talking about. But yeah, whether it's the Massachusetts millionaires tax or any of these other things, what you're talking about is taxing the super wealthy, and what the super wealthy have been, I won't say always telling you, but pretty consistently telling you is, we can find other states to live in and not dramatically reshape our lifestyle, whether it's Jeff Bezos and relocation of
where's Bezos
Seattle
living these days?
I think Florida. But, he had his headquarters in Washington State and relocated. Or who's the Google founder who's been making a big thing out of the California
Eric
wealth
Schmidt?
tax? I don't recall.
No, he wasn't the founder.
In either case, many of them are saying, look, I'll just move to Texas. I'll move somewhere else, and I might keep a property there, and you can tax that all you want, but I'm not going to succumb to these things. And, yeah, it's not working great in even the biggest geographic states, and I worry about what it would mean for some of the smaller ones like Rhode Island.
Larry Page?
Might have been.
Sergey Brin?
Brin. It was Brin that was making a big thing of it. Sorry.
Isn't it great that one of the founders of Google had the last name Page? That's like if Ford had been founded by like Jimmy Engine.
Folks, brand new guide from the Armstrong Advisory Group for the month of May. It's our first, Friday too, but kickoff of the month and our brand new guide. And it is one that touches a lot of folks in different ways and a very common conversation that financial advisors have, which has to do with simplifying and consolidating your financial life a little bit. If you have a loved one, for instance, who's got 3 bank accounts and investment accounts at 4 different places, you've played this out yourself before, and it can be frustrating in the best of scenarios and disastrous in others. If you have job hopped and maybe you've got a few old 401ks, maybe you've been searching for the best CD rate and have bank accounts spread out all over the place, you know firsthand how difficult it can be to track it all down, make sure your beneficiaries are assigned, and keep track of all of these things. Now imagine for a moment that you are no longer capable of doing so and somebody else is trying to track it all down for you. This guide is what it's all about, is trying to figure out, can I consolidate things? What is the downside to doing so? Because especially in the cases of those retirement accounts, there are a lot of third rails and things that can happen if you do it incorrectly, right? If you take a distribution out of your retirement account and don't do it right, you could owe taxes. You could give up on a bunch of advantages that the IRS gives you by keeping that retirement account where it is. So you have to be knowledgeable about it. You have to understand what the upsides are and the downsides of consolidating accounts and how to do it properly. If you would like to request your free copy, again, it's our brand new May guide on consolidating investment accounts, and you can get it for free by calling 800-393-4001. You can also request it online at armstrongadvisory.com, but that phone number, once again, is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Let's see. What do we want to cover here? 5 money lessons from readers in the trenches of elder parent care. This piece from the New York Times, Mike.
Yeah, so last year, about 11,400 Americans turned 65 on any given day.
It's a lot.
Gen Xers are starting to experience this firsthand.
Who?
Yeah. Millennials will be the next to start dealing with their parents, getting to retirement or already there and running into all sorts of complicated issues. I think a few things that I will just generally say, having worked with that generation and older generations for over a decade now. One, your parents are generally not prepared for future health issues.
No.
Financially and just emotionally, they are not quite facing those things very transparently or clearly. 2, long-term care, it's not going to get cheaper in their lifetimes. It's not going to get more affordable in their lifetimes generally. You could see improvements, 30, 40 years from now, but in their lifetime, I do not believe long-term care is going to get cheaper. And 3, based on my experience, you probably don't know what they would want for their long-term care scenario if you needed to navigate it. Those have been my conclusions, again, from asking people about this quite a bit over the last 10 years, is nobody likes to talk about it. Everybody's unprepared for it. And when it happens, it's oftentimes an unmitigated mess or disaster where the rest of the family is trying to pick it up. And the New York Times article, goes and interviews several different families, all of whom are having either good or bad experiences with it, but several of them are kids trying to figure this out from across the country, oftentimes financially contributing to their parents' long-term care because no conversations were had, no real planning was done, and it's been an issue for generations, but because of the size of the baby boomer generation, it's about to impact a lot more people.
Yeah, and it's something where until you live that experience day in and day out, nothing prepared. Like you can't prepare for it. Quite honestly, you can try, but until you experience it, it's too theoretical for you to really wrap your head around.
The only suggestion I have for the Gen Xers out there who are getting ready for it is ask a lot of questions. Ask them of your parents' financial advisor. Ask them of your parents yourself if they will give you the information. But ask about what the plan is because, like I said, the vast majority of people unprepared for it. And 2 stats that I think most people don't understand. Average life expectancy is not relevant when you're talking about living people in their 60s.
No.
The life expectancy for a 65-year-old woman is 87 years old. For a man, it's 84. And the chances that a 65-year-old woman reaches age 90 is now 40%. It's 30% for men. We're talking about a lot of people that live to 90 to 100 years old over the course of the next 20 years, and their financial situations are not prepared for that reality.
Let's take a quick break. When we return, we've got Stack Roulette.
From markets to money to business and financial news, watch the Financial Exchange every day on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and keep up to date on the market news you need to know. This is the Financial Exchange. It's important to update your estate plan as changes occur in your life, or you can wind up with significant issues that may affect your future. Get Cushing & Dolan's new guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Potholes to Avoid. Call 866-848-5699 and get your copy today, or request it online at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, I'm Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and soldiers' homes, and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for both single veterans and those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Over the years, it's easy to collect investment accounts, including old 401ks and multiple IRAs. But at some point, it can get hard to keep track of what you actually have. Too many accounts can lead to confusion, overlapping investments, and sometimes missed opportunities. Our new guide is called Consolidating Investment Accounts, and in it, you'll learn how to simplify your financial life, giving you a clearer picture of your strategy, your risk, and your progress. The guide will also walk through how to avoid common mistakes and build a more organized, intentional plan. Call us today at 800-393-4001 and get your free copy of our new guide called Consolidating Investment Accounts. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
For many families, an energy bill can mean difficult choices, wondering when or even how it will get paid. It shouldn't be that way. For more than 40 years, Citizens Energy has helped families afford life's basic needs. First, through Joe for Oil, and now through Joe for Sun. A simple way to save on electricity at no cost to you. No installation, no equipment, and you keep your utility company. We keep it simple and help you lower your utility bill. Call 1-855-JOE-FOR-SUN or visit citizensenergy.com to see if you qualify. Sponsored by Citizens Energy.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
When a heart stops, the clock starts. You are the first responder until help arrives. In that moment, 4 minutes equals brain damage. 6 minutes equals too late in an emergency. The first responder is you. We need you. Will you be ready? Learn CPR. Visit heart.org/nation. That's heart.org/nation.
The Financial Exchange is live on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132, weekdays from 11 to noon. Get the latest business and financial news from across the country and around the world, and keep up to date on how it might affect your wallet. That's The Financial Exchange, weekdays from 11 to noon on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Register today for this year's DAV 5K on Saturday, November 7th at Fort Independence on Castle Island. If you're not able to participate, you can still support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. Your participation helps provide vital services like free transportation to medical appointments and safe housing for single veterans and their families. Donate today at dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Mike, what do you got for Stack Roulette for me?
Let's talk a little bit about gambling sites that are continue to disguise themselves as futures commodities traders. So Polymarket and Kalshi are the two big ones out there. But they have mirrored the growth that you have seen on online sports gambling, and the Wall Street Journal had a pretty interesting piece for those that aren't already very aware of what's going on there. They interview a John Peterson who's now in a homeless shelter after, wasn't in great financial shape before, turned $2,000 into $41,000 before losing it all on one, as gamblers do, one final bet on these platforms, now living in a homeless shelter. But a few pieces that they found, the Wall Street Journal did, about these sites that, I think are enlightening and interesting and important to better understand. One, on Polymarket, 67% of profits go to just 0.1% of accounts, meaning less than 2,000 accounts total, net a total of nearly $500 million. They also... Again, what I think is most important here is they are not regulated like gambling sites. In fact, recently Polymarket was running a pay my rent advertisement where, basically like, hey, no longer have the money to pay your rent. Maybe you can make some on Polymarket to be able to afford that. To which I ask, would any state in the country allow a casino? Can you imagine the Mohegan Sun running an advertisement like, hey, running out of money to pay your rent? Come on down. Maybe you can make it up on craps. Because that's what this is.
Yes.
And my concern is that, A, it's not regulated anywhere like it. By the way, they don't run that ad anymore, but they did.
But they did.
And two, more and more it seems to me that these, what are very clearly akin to gambling platforms, are being advertised as, one, legal gambling, and two, investing in some way, and they are neither.
Correct.
And that, I think, in lies the problem. And I do worry about, Robinhood and others who are beginning to place these platforms on their brokerage websites, really muddying the waters even further between what is gambling and what is investing.
I've kind of had it with them at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. People, everyone is out there is like, oh, well, it's great. You can, now if you have an idea, you can put your money where your mouth is. Maybe I don't want to. Maybe I just want to have a conversation about something. I don't need to bet on everything.
And it is so pervasive. I was at a reunion over the weekend, and it was, classes from several different age groups. And yeah, of course, all of the recent college grads were talking about all of their bets on the basketball game and like every playoff game out there and all the money that they were losing. And it is such a part of the lifestyle that is just not for all of the people that were in my age demo.
And quite honestly, it's a boring part of the lifestyle. I'll pass judgment. As someone who, does actually go to casinos and gamble, I know that no one wants to hear about the bad beats that I got on a blackjack hand.
Right.
Because it's just
not interesting.
It's not interesting.
I'd rather hear about your dream.
So, stop telling me about, well, I bet on this and this is how it works. I don't care. If the most interesting thing that happened to you today is that you, put a bet on how many points Larry Bird would score, whatever. The answer was 0. He didn't score any yesterday. We're going to take a quick break for the rest of the day, and we'll be back tomorrow. And if you didn't like our show today, we're going to try harder. We promise.